Good morning. This is the Blain's World podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and you get more information at our website, which is www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on both positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Annie Higgins, Administrative Director at Bullington Gardens in Hendersonville. And Annie, you can feel free to wave to all your friends and friends who are watching this. So this is Annie, and she just said hello to us. I should mention that Annie Higgins has a background in education. She's 10 years as a teacher. She's been in horticulture, landscape design. She's served on various nonprofit boards and committees, including, speaking of gardening symposium for 15 years. And so the question I always ask Annie, the first time I meet with somebody online here, is as a child, you grew up where?
I grew up right outside of Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay. And did you know, as a young woman growing up outside of Louisiana, or when you lived there, did you always know you wanted to be into gardening?
I don't think so. I think I came to gardening later on in life. I always knew I wanted to be an educator. My parents were both educators, and so I came to that naturally. But I think gardening came about because of education. It was my way to unwind at the end of the day, and it just evolved.
Did your parents have gardens?
They did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
they did. My mom had a lot of ornamental gardens, and my dad had practical vegetable gardens. So, yes.
And so did you help out with them as a kid?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it was so that you grew up in that, but then you kind of straight away you went to college and you became a teacher. What kind of teacher were you?
I taught everything from 3rd through 8th grade science. So I dabbled in different grades.
Okay. So what got you away from teaching?
After 10 years, I just decided, actually, one of my parents of my students was in horticulture. She was a landscape architect, and I found myself asking more about her job than talking about her student, so her child. So we formed a bond. When I went back to college in landscape, I worked with her and got a foot in the door, and from there just went on into the green industry.
Okay, and so you've been involved in it ever since. What got you to Hendersonville and Bullington Gardens?
I was in Asheville for 17 years, and I had volunteered at Bullington about 12 or 13 years ago as a speaker. I did some work for John for Bullington Gardens, and just had an incredible respect for John and for what he did. He was the director prior to me. And as this job became available, it was offered and I jumped. So
kind of at the right place at the right
amazing.
Time. You were, when they picked you were just perfect timing to be there. Now,
perfect
for the folks,
timing.
What's interesting about this show is that when you mention Bullington Gardens, it seems like it's one of the secrets of the area, Western North Carolina. So I have to admit, I'm guilty of not being familiar with it. That's why I'm glad you're on the show. Talk about what is Bullington Gardens?
It has been a secret. The mission of Bullington is actually education, and so we focus on students that have our exceptional children who have some type of challenge, whether it's mobility challenges, and we provide horticultural therapy programs for those students. We have a partnership with the school system, and we have exceptional children classes 3 days a week We have some paid horticultural therapists and some retired special needs teachers that come in and work with those students 3 days a week. So I guess the general public might not know about Bullington until 3 years ago. And I would say the secret is out, because during the pandemic, the gardens really became known for their fairy gardens, and it has blown up. We had on Saturday over 1,000 people for our fairy market. So since the pandemic, it has been a great place for families to come with their children. And it fits our mission of connecting people with gardens, with nature. So our mission is basically 3 things: education, horticultural therapy, and connection to nature. And so we feel like we're doing that pretty well.
And talk about the one thing you just mentioned. I'm not familiar with it. Horticultural therapy. What is that?
Horticultural therapy is healing through plants and garden activities. A lot of our students might have challenges, mobility challenges. So we have raised beds where they can wheel up and work in the gardens. Being able to handle tools, creating muscle strength. So it's healing through garden.
And so when they come to work there,
And
yeah, go ahead.
So those students are special needs. We also have our boost students who are on-site occupational course of study students, and those students are coming to learn 10th grade. They're coming to learn work skills. They're students that are going to graduate, or they're going to leave high school with a certificate, not a degree. But our hope is that they learn skills that they'll carry through their life and can help them be productive members of society and to be independent as adults. So that's our 10th grade class, and we love those students. They come the 4 high schools in Henderson come once a week, and they have projects that they work on. And I'll talk about one of the special projects that they do a little bit later, but it's just a great program all the way around.
So how many students come to the facility in a week?
Well, right now, we have the fairy trails, and we have about 100 a day. The students that come, I'd say the exceptional students, the exceptional children, 25 a day for the exceptional children, and then the boost students anywhere from 5 to 9 a day. So they're relatively small classes that can really focus on the students.
So it seems like the 5 of you, the folks who work there, you're kept pretty busy, just with all these students every single day, aside from other stuff you have to do. And you mentioned, for the benefit of people who aren't familiar with it, fairy trails, is it? What are they?
The fairy trails started in I would say 2018 by one of the teachers. One of our retired special needs teachers started a fairy trail in order to bring families in. We had a lot of students during the school year, but we wanted to pull families in during the summer when we didn't have those students during the school year. So she created all these fairy vignettes, and during the pandemic, we had volunteers that timed the visitors, so it was a safe place for families to be able to go outdoors and separated. So it really caught on. And in 2020, during the summer months, we had 6,000 visitors for 3 months. In 2021, we had 8,500. And in 2022, we had 12,500. So it has become a place for families to bring their, to come for the day and really enjoy it. It's also, there's no admission. So we want to be a place that people can really have access um, to the gardens and to the fairy gardens. So we strive to keep it that way through fundraising in other places, but we've managed to do that.
How big is the facility?
12 acres.
12 acres. Yeah, it just sounds incredible. And I think, Annie, what we can do here is rather than just keep talking about it, I understand you have some pictures of the place or slides, if you will, that I think will give people a better feel for this. And I like what you showed me just before the show. Why don't we start from the very beginning and we show that map or something, and we'll go into kind of you and I back and forth. I'll just ask some questions about what I'm looking at. So could you pop that up for us?
Yep.
Okay. And just before I have you talk about it, I should mention that if you're listening to the show, we're speaking to Annie Higgins, the Administrative Director of Bullington Gardens in Hendersonville. And right now we're going to be looking at some pictures. Hold it right there. So right now we're looking at some pictures of Bullington Gardens. And Annie, this first map is what?
This is a layout of most of the gardens. And I'll just kind of go through.
Please.
So we've got a dahlia garden. Number 2 is a dahlia garden. It's coming into its own in about 2 or 3 weeks. We've got about 600 different kinds of dahlias, and the dahlia folks, we have about 7 dahlia teams that work 10 months out of the year to make those dahlias beautiful. And then number 3 is a pollinator garden. So we focus on all of the aspects of what pollinators need to live throughout their life cycle. We have a perennial garden on the other side of that. Number 13 is our admin building. That was the old home of Bob Bullington. When he passed, he gave this property to the community. We have a wonderful up here. We have number 4 is a shade garden. Number 6 is a native garden. So for people who really want to know and learn their natives, we have a Western Botanical Society that comes in and really takes care of our native garden. We have an amphitheater where the students can, number 17 is the amphitheater where people have plays. We have talent shows. Number 8 is a rain garden. Number 9 is an herb garden. Number 15 is our greenhouse that acts as a classroom. Number 7 is our therapy garden where the students do a lot of their gardens. And then going back towards number 10, this is our meadow, 10 and 11. 11 is our boost gardens, and I'll talk about that a little bit longer. But the number 10 is really where the fairy trail starts, and it's there's about a half of a mile of walking trails that are really well marked and designated. So it's a nice place to have a shady, not too strenuous hike. So it's beautiful.
Now, if somebody comes, if I can ask you, if somebody comes to the facility, are they guided tours, or can they get somebody to take them through the facility?
So there's no guided tours. You can go online and you can schedule a guided tour, but just showing up at the gardens, we would give you a map. So
gotcha. You give them this map.
There is a way to go online and schedule a guided tour. There's an audio tour on our maps that does give a pretty good idea of what each of the gardens are all about. So just kind of walks you through about 5 or 6 different gardens.
If somebody was coming there for the first time and had a bunch of hours to walk through it, how long would you say they should spend?
Well, if you're going on a fairy trail, I would say the fairy trail probably takes about 25 minutes. And you can probably make it through the rest of the garden in about 30 minutes. So
okay.
I would So it's not incredibly large, but maybe an hour and a half. We have a lot of people who bring picnics and just picnic under the pavilion, or we have some shady trees with some picnic benches. So we have some nice places to stop and have a picnic.
So I'm looking at this, it reminds me like a Disney World or something. It looks like you could spend the whole day there, but typically in a couple of
Not
hours,
that big.
typically it looks
Yeah,
bigger than it is.
it
Um,
does.
but typically you can do a couple of hours. Sounds super. Why don't we
Yeah.
go from there, Annie, to look at some of
Okay.
the slides you have, I guess, we can maybe talk about those as well.
Okay. And I'll go through those. I won't dilly dally, but this is just some of our dahlias.
Wow,
This is
beautiful.
about to, yeah. Fall is a really beautiful time. We have a lot of beautiful Japanese maples. This is our therapy garden, our native
But
garden.
go slow now. I'll have some questions to ask you. And by the way,
Okay.
if you're just listening to this, I'll encourage you to take a second look at the YouTube. It'll be posted a video of it, because you have to see these are like breathtaking. Some of these pictures, and so Annie's starting to show some of the pictures. And maybe as you do, Annie, talk a little bit about them, or we have time if you would talk about what people are
Okay.
seeing.
Uh, okay. This is an herb garden. All of our gardens are maintained by volunteers. And so the herb garden is maintained by Betty Lockwood. She's been a long time volunteer. Most of our volunteers have been there at least 10 years. This is Sally's garden. It's just a sweet little garden that connects our native garden to our therapy garden.
By the way, I was going to ask you.
This is a little gazebo, just overlooks our meadow. We have
You mentioned something about volunteers. So I assume people can volunteer, or what do they do if they want to volunteer to help out?
we have a volunteer orientation that we give several times a year. And we just get in touch with me. I'll let you know when the next volunteer orientation is. And it just kind of gives you an understanding about where everything is and who people are. And then we volunteer, we get together Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings about 9:30, and we work for a couple hours. And then there are several other options, plant sales and other things. So there's a lot of different options depending on what you like to do.
And let me ask you, in terms of people getting information, I guess there are two ways to get information. First of all, the website, I guess, would be a good place to check. And your website, Annie,
It
is what is the website?
www.bullingtongardens.org.
Okay. And if they go there, hold on this picture for a second, but when you go to that website, can they also sign up to volunteer, or that's where they would go to volunteer?
Sure. There's a contact button on the website. And if you hit the contact, I'll get it, or the admin assistant, Jen, will get it. So just send me a note and then we'll go from there.
Okay. And this picture we're looking at is what?
Oh, we have a bee team. So under Patrice German, we have an apiary that we have 5 hives of bees, and we make delicious honey. So they're just taking care of our bees.
Now, do you sell the honey?
We do at Christmas time.
Okay. And in terms of people, if they want to work with bees, I assume you train them how to do that, and then you put them in outfits
Um,
accordingly.
no, that is probably something that we don't want the liability of training people on bees, but there are several. There, we don't have enough insurance for that, but
Right.
there are several places. And if they want information, there's a couple of places in Henderson County. The Cooperative Extension is a wonderful resource, and we are partners with the extension as well. But send me a contact, and I can help. I can help direct you to where to go to get some great bee classes.
Okay. And so the picture up there, if you're listening, there's just some people working with the bees, or volunteer basis. Next slide, if you would.
So here we start some of our fairy pictures. So these would be examples of the fairy trail.
Oh,
And they're just little miniatures. This is actually one of our beautiful hemlocks, weeping hemlocks. Bob Bullington loved just beautiful conifers. So we have a lot of educational opportunities. These are just some of our elementary school programs that we teach. So we teach just different plant explorations, inheritable traits. This is just some of our students that come through in the spring. They all plant marigolds to take home for their moms.
Oh,
Here's
very cool.
just some gardens class. They can do their own vegetables. Here's some of our adult programs: grafting, terrariums. We've had some wonderful programs this year. Identifying trees and shrubs. This is landscape design, container gardening. So just a wealth, and all of those are going to be on their website too.
Now,
This was a
so
grafting class.
when do people take those courses? At night or
ahead.
during the day?
Usually they're during the day, and they have several options to sign up. We'll have a propagation of native azaleas this fall. We have environmentally friendly landscaping coming up next week. So we start in January and go throughout the year. We'll have a terrarium class. So just we try to offer a lot of different. This is a example of our terrarium class. This was a container gardening class. This was a class. This is Craig Monty. He's talking on blueberries. He's an extension agent. And so here is our horticultural therapy section. So it just uses gardening and other plant activities as a vehicle for therapy and rehabilitation. So here's our raised beds.
The people who are getting this therapy, they're typically younger folks. Is that correct?
Well, we do work with several adult places. These are our students, but we work with people who have addiction issues, and we work with some females who have some eating disorders. These are our raised beds that allow students to really be able to get their hands in the dirt and do some gardening.
Very cool.
Some of our dahlias.
And these probably.
And then this is our in next week we'll have. Go ahead.
No, it's fascinating because these are people I'm looking at who probably never had a chance to do any gardening or get involved in gardening like this.
Yes, it's they're always excited. So this is our nature camp, and this is a camp that happens in July 10th. We'll start. A lot of these students come back every year, and it's a week-long camp that they just have a blast. And let me see, they build birdhouses, and they have a Sunday and a drawing day. They have a field. This is their talent show. So they will, on one of the days, get up and share a talent. They have a water day. So they get in the creek and they have boat. This is the talent show. And so the next thing that we do is the Bullington on-site occupational student training. These are our 10th graders. And this is the classes that really have this amazing project. And I'll tell you just really quickly about it.
Sure.
These, they start at the beginning of the year, and they're given a plot of gardens. They give $50 a year, and each high school has to use that $50 to design. They buy their seeds. They grow their plants in the greenhouse over the winter. They, at the end of the cold weather, this is their gardens. So they have grown these plants by seed, usually in the garden, and then they install them as a competition against the other high schools. And they can't go over their $50. So they get pretty creative in their use of materials. But there's a big competition at the end, the last week of school. And we have judges that this is them growing their seeds in the greenhouse over the winter. This is them planting some of their plants, watering them in. This is the judges who come by, and based on their design and their use of color and their design, they award a winner. And this is what the competition looks like. So they have to get up and speak in front of all these people, which can be daunting, but a great experience for them. So this is the result of that 1 year project. And so they all get a plaque at the end of the year, and we have a great kind of a fun day. Wheelbarrow races, mulch races. We just create some fun competitions in the garden. So,
and this is, again, students, and I'm thinking not only students, but myself also, who have never had this experience in their life. Like you were saying, you at least had some experience with your parents, but a lot of people never had any kind of experience like this.
Right. And hopefully it's skills that these students will carry throughout their lives. So,
well, you've only been there 3 years, but do you find out after the fact that after they've gone through the program, do you get any feedback afterwards, or do they get in touch with you still?
So the 10th graders, actually, we had something kind of wonderful happen, and it was not wonderful in the way that it was an accident of one of our guests, but the EMT that showed up at the gardens was actually one of our old students. And so it was just great to be able to see that, he had gone on to be a very worthy employee. So sometimes we do hear back. We hear back from a lot of students that, to say how much it changed their lives. So yeah, it's a wonderful place for that.
Talk about, if you would, 2 other things that you folks are involved in. I know that in terms of plant sales, describe them and when they take place and what happens.
We have 2 major plant sales. One is in April and one is in September. So the 2 really great times to plant are when it's a little bit cooler and less stressful on the plants. So our greenhouse manager is Linda Patterson, and Linda and I just really work to make sure we have a lot of diversity in what we're growing and what we offer. We like to focus on pollinator plants, on native plants, medicinal plants. We have trees and shrubs, some annuals, a lot of organic heirloom vegetables, herbs. And so since we also have the fairy trail, we also are able to put out things that are seasonal. And so we always have probably about 30 or 40 plants out during the summer, but our 2 main plant sales are April and September, and they can always be found on the website.
And Annie, if I can, let me just ask you to take down that one slide, the upcoming plans, and come back to us so we see the full screen here in a second. And again, if you just tuned in, we're talking with Annie Higgins, who is the administrative director of Bullington Gardens. And Annie, I have to ask you about one other event. It seems like you keep a little busy. You have these major events, and you have all these students come in. You have 12,000 people, 18,000 people coming to facilities. What's the other event coming up in the fall? The We Wine and the big fundraiser you're doing in the fall. What's that about?
So the We Wine and Dahlias, we used to have a very large event, Wine and Dahlias, and after the pandemic, we scaled it back so people felt like they had a little more intimate time in the garden. So what We Wine is it's a chance for people who want to have a small garden party after hours. After the gardens close, we set up a garden table, a garden party, and a group of 8 can have that space either by the pavilion or near the dahlias, and they can enjoy the gardens by themselves with friends. We offer local wine. We offer a local red wine from St. Paul's, and a local white, and an apple cider, and then water. And then we send you home with a bouquet of some of the dahlias that we've grown. So it's a great little fundraiser. It's Tuesday through Saturday, mid-August through mid-October. And for a table of 8, it's $300. And you can also sponsor a table of 16 for $500. And we've had people who actually will bring in live music and have a guitar playing in the background, or even the adults like to walk the trails in the afternoon. It's a great place to take photos of a group. We had a family reunion one time, and they chose the dahlias to take their family photo. So it's a fundraiser that goes on for about 2 months, mid-August through mid-October.
And for the facility you mentioned earlier, it's pretty cool that all this stuff is open to the public at no charge. Is that correct? If they come on a daily basis, they can just walk around anytime
That's
they want.
correct.
How about the courses? Is there a charge for the courses?
Correct. Not 9 to 4.
Well, I'm sorry.
Is there a charge for the courses? Yes, the charge the courses are usually $15. If you're a friend of Bullington, which is a $40 membership, you get 10% off of all plant sales. You get an early bird plant sale, so you get to come a day early for that plant sale, and then you get 10%. I think it's 15% off of all of the classes. So classes for members are $12.
And I know you mentioned you're in Hendersonville. Where exactly again?
We are near Clear Creek area, so just north of 64 on Howard Gap, where Howard Gap and Zebcorn, in that little area. And there are green Department of Transportation signs that would guide you to. It's 95 Upper Red Oak Trail, Hendersonville, 28792.
Okay, and again, the best bet to find out more information about not only the location, but all the other cool stuff you do is, once again, the website.
Yep. You'll have our address and anything else that you need.
But what is the website again, if you would?
BullingtonGardens.org.
Okay, and you can check out all this cool stuff. I'd like to thank you, Annie Higgins, for 2 things. 1, for this instruction, great slides you showed of the place, and 2, to kind of, you're encouraging me to take a visit down there. It sounds like I'll have a nice couple of hours if I come down, right?
That's amazing. Yeah. Look me up. I'll give you a tour.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for being my guest on this edition of the Blaine's World Show. I'd also like to remind folks to tune in a couple of different places we mentioned: Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find us. I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. Look forward to seeing you all next week, or whenever you see next show we post. Thanks, folks. See you soon. Annie, you be well.
You too. Bye-bye.